Thanks so much for coming by to see how I do one of my root shadows, but before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe. So my client that I'm working on for this video had an 8-week appointment set up, and when she came in, we realized, as you can see here, she doesn't really have a whole bunch of grow out. So we decided just to blend her roots and just freshen up around her face and re-brighten her blonde. If you've watched any of my other videos, then you know that this is one of my favorite ways to do highlights around the face. I usually do 2 to 3 foils back to back vertically. This just has a really nice soft way of framing the face with a nice brightness without being too harsh, because I do a really soft weave versus doing slices. So when they pull the hair back, it just blends really softly. It's not heavy at all. And then it grows out so much nicer because they don't have all these stripes and harsh lines in their hair. So my clients are always super happy with having a soft money piece created this way. Also, don't forget to pull the ends over to the side or just really lightly feather through the mid shaft. You don't want to let the bleach sit on too long through the full length of the hair, because this is normally where the hair is a little bit more weaker and also more over processed, because everybody likes their hair brighter around the face, so it usually ends up being a little bit more damaged in that area, and it sits longer in the foils usually. So just be really cautious when you're applying the lightener that you don't overlap. By the way, I totally had to pause everything that I was doing and do a quick little research to make sure that mid-shaft was the correct phrase that I was meaning to say. I was recording, and when I said it, I stumbled on my words and thought process, and I was like, I don't know if that's what I'm meaning to say. And just so you know, that's the correct term. I was either being overly cautious or having a dirty mind, and turns out I was being overly cautious. Alright, we're done with the foiling. This is all the highlights that we did around her face to re-brighten her up. You can see that this is just a super quick process. So we're going into the formulation for the root shadow, and I'm using most of the 8PA and just a little bit of the natural. You want to make sure that you have the tones nicely balanced. So adding just a little bit of a natural in there, even though you want a cooler tone, is just going to make sure that the ash doesn't grab too muddy and grab on the extra ashy side. The way I like to do my root shadows is opposite from doing a root retouch. Normally with a root retouch, you go around, slap it right on the hairline, and then do your quadrants and start up on the part. Well, I like to go through, do not even touch the hairline, and then I like to start right at the ear and work my way up. The reasoning is because when you're doing a root retouch, you're laying the color down at a very perfect heavy line. You're generally not swiping the color down, so it doesn't really matter if the color lays on top of each other because it's gonna blend anyways. It's the same color that you always do. Where when we do a root shadow, you can see here that we're tapping the roots, but then we're swiping the color down just a little bit because you don't want it to have a heavy, harsh line. That just makes it look like you still have grow out. So when you swipe through the roots like I'm doing here, this is gonna really soften her shadow up, and it's gonna blend into her blonde a lot better, and it's just gonna have an overall softer appearance. Another thing I like doing when I do my root shadows is creating more of a teardrop shape. That's just gonna have it where it falls a little bit heavier in the back at the crown of the head, and then it kind of goes a little bit more narrow towards the front of the face. That's gonna make it look a little bit more natural, where people are a little bit more darker around the back anyways, so it's just gonna blend. Like right here, I'm swiping down pretty far into her mid shaft. And then when we go up towards the front, you can see that normally I just barely tap the front of the roots and I don't really swipe down too far. That's because we want to try and preserve as much brightness around the face as we can. And I'm not doing it here, but sometimes if I really want to make sure that it has a really good blend, or if somebody has really thick hair or whatever desired look we're going for, you can take a comb and just really gently comb all the way straight down through the ends. It's not going to drag the color all the way down. It's just going to make sure that you have a little bit more of an even blend if you're uncomfortable or worrying about splotchiness. You can really see that this is such a good option for in between maintenance appointments for balayage. This just really helps blend the roots. Sometimes you don't have enough grow out to redo the lightener or to blend into the roots. So just going through and doing a soft root shadow is a great way to maintain her look without feeling like she has grow out. And then after this, you can always go through and retone to brighten her back up, and she's gonna feel like she has a whole brand new color all over again. And now we're toning to re-brighten her up after she's processed on her roots. Here's her color after everything. You can see how nice her roots blend. They're so much softer, they're still really cool, and it just blends really nicely from her roots in through her mid shaft. I need to stop saying that, honestly. But you can see that her highlights are still kind of exposed just because it's a gloss, so it's not going to cover it completely. It's just going to really soften everything, eliminate the grow out a little bit, and then blend into the brighter ends. And you can see that it drops down just a little bit further in the back, but she still has a lot of brightness up towards the front. Here's her before. You can see how heavy the line is from her grow out, how brassy she was, how warm she was. So we were able to really eliminate that line, blend her roots, cool her down, keep her bright, all at the same time, and she really was out in under 2 hours. So this is such an ideal way to maintain someone's color when they're in between appointments, especially when they're dealing with brassiness and they want to kick out that warmth. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you learned something other than the fact that midshaft is an acceptable term for the hair. If you have any questions, please ask, and don't forget to like and subscribe.